World Card Making Day event that I am going to show you how to do this one sheet wonder that is in page 42 of our mini catalogue. So here's an example of 6 cards in the catalogue. So I'm going to be using a different piece of designer series paper to what they had. If I just bring this over here, this is the paper they used to do the one sheet wonder, and it's all been cut into those shapes there so that you can use the paper to make those 6 cards. But not only do we have sketches to make 6 cards out of one sheet, but each of these, if you look on here, have got very cool technique ideas, and so we're going to be doing those as well. So it's different ways, showing you different ways to use your designer series paper, and a simple way to cut it up and get 6 cards out of it. I also have this template sheet that we're given from Stampin' Up, and I can give you a copy if you want. Just leave a comment and I'll get in touch with you and email you a copy. Okay, so let's get going. What you need is a sheet of designer series paper, and I'm using the Retired Mediterranean Blooms sheet, which is this one here. This is the reverse side of it. I went ahead and cut it up before doing this video, which was a bit silly because I really need to show you how to cut it. So I'll just get another piece of 12 by 12 and cut that and show you. You also need 6 pieces of card that are going to coordinate with the paper that you're using. So these are all A5 size, so I've just cut A4 in half to make my 6 card bases. And you need some stamp sets or bundles that are going to coordinate. So I'm using this is retired now. Actually, this paper you can still get on special on the clearance last chance list. So, but I'm using that because it does coordinate, and mostly I'm using the Notes and Totes. Just you need something that's got some sentiments on to put on the front of your card. Maybe some die cuts, so I'm using the Stylish Shapes dies. Some embellishments. I have only got this new Early Espresso and Old Olive linen thread, which is in the mini catalogue. So yeah, that's about all you need for extras. Just some extra bits of card to stamp your sentiments on, some like white card. And that's about it. So I'll get the 12 by 12 and show you the first thing for cutting. Wait a minute. And we need, I'm just going to use some of this cloud cover paper. So just imagine this cloud cover is the DSP. See, I've already cut this out, and we'll show you how that works from here. So the first is to cut your DSP, designer series paper, into 3 sections, and they're all 4 inches wide. So I don't know, let me just move this. I'll move this out a little bit. There we go. 4 inches. And 4 inches again. And then the last one will automatically be 4 inches. So you have 3 strips that are 4 inches wide. Then the next one is you're going to be cutting this at 5 1/4 inches. Let's move it along a bit. 5 1/4. And again at 5 1/4. And you'll be left with a small piece at the top. So put those to one side. The second sheet we're going to do at 3 inches. And then 5 1/4 again. And then you're left with the more like a square at the top. So I'll just put those to one side, and then the last sheet is exactly the same as the first. You're doing 5 1/4 and 5 1/4. And again, you've got that skinny piece at the top. So what you end up with is 5 of these. I'm going to put it back to where it was. 5 of these 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Then you get 1 of these, which is 4 by 3 3/4, and this one is 4 by 3, and then you get two of those strips that are 1 1/2 inch wide by 4. So you get your DSP, get your card bases, and then you can start creating. And our first card is this template here, which I have gone ahead and labelled them in my catalogue. So that is this one here, and this one, you notice a sponging brush next to it. It is changing the colour of the card. The paper would normally be like vanilla background, and they've used crumb cake and sponged the background, made about brown background. So we are going to take one of our papers that is 4 inch by 5 1/4, and we're going to sponge lemon lolly over the background. Right. This is really good. I've done this technique before of changing the colour just by sponging on colour for scrapbooking, because I had paper that was floral and I wanted it pink, and the flowers were beautiful. That I wanted to use the flowers that were there, but I wanted the background pink, so I just used my bubble bath paper and made a pink background, which looked beautiful for my scrapbooking page, rather than just a stark white with the flowers on. It just made it softer. As you can see, it's doing that for this one as well. Bringing in that pale yellow background. You don't want to use a colour that's too dark, that's going to detract from your images that are already on your designer series paper. There we go, that looks fine. So now I'm going to put this on my first card base. Now our standard cards in New Zealand are the A5 size, which is slightly different size to the American, and this designer series paper is cut to suit the American cards, so their cards are a little bit shorter than ours and a little bit fatter than ours. So you can trim your paper if you want, but I am going to just go ahead and leave it as the size it is, and just make I'm just going to put a little bit at each end. Does that look even? Now in the catalogue it was this way up. I'm going to do mine this way just because that's the way the lemons seem to be going. I've used my die cuts from the Stylish Shapes, and I've used the narrow one at the back. I just cut it in half so it makes a flag at each end. I'm just going to fill in the bit that's missing, just to make it stable right across there. And I'm going to put some twine around. Just get my tear and tape. Just making sure it's straight. I might go and add a couple of little embellishments there. I will see, but like maybe a couple of yellow clear dots or something like that. But this is the one that I did for the craft along event that I did with the Stampin' Up staff, and I just use crumb cake and sponge round the edges only, just to give it more of an antique look. And this is the same design as the one in the catalogue, which is going up that way. This one I have just tilted on its side, so that's the number 1 card. Right, the next one, so number 1 uses the technique of blending brush to add colour. Number 2, we are going to get a piece of Designer Series paper, the one that's 4 inches by 5 3/4. This one I want to trim down a little bit. I want to trim my card to fit that, and I want to trim a little bit off here. So I'm just going to, and then I'm going to trim a little bit off the top of the card, but we'll do this technique first. So this technique is using blends to colour in. And you can use, so I'm going to use these blends, and this is Light Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to put a little bit more colour on the flowers, just to give them a little bit extra. So if you had a black line art image, like black and white images, there was some paper called Zoo Crew a while back, and it had lots of cute little animals on, and it had a little bit of colour on, but they weren't all coloured in. You could then go ahead and colour in the extra using your blends, so you can colour your Designer Series paper. So I'm just doing a bit more shading around all the flowers. Just make the flowers pop a little bit more. You can also do a little bit of shadowing around the flowers if you want to, like just add a little bit of shadowing around the leaves. You can also add some dots. You can really do whatever you want on your Designer Series paper with the pen. So yeah, it's just been starting to be creative with your blend pen and add some more colour with your blends. It's colouring in. Colouring in with the blends is the technique there. If you want to use Winker Stella, you can use Winker Stella and just add a bit of shimmer. So if we just add a bit of shimmer to the lemons here, that won't be easy to see on camera without the light, but there is a shine there. So yes, it's what we're doing with that technique is we're just colouring in using our blends to shadow, to highlight, yeah, just to add a little bit more. So now I'm going to glue this down for card number 2. And because our cards are different to the American size cards, so now I'm going to add my sentiment. And I've got the words "so grateful" from the Notes and Totes set. And I'm going to just add it onto a bit of gold foil card. Probably tape would be best to use because it slides around on the gold foil, the glue. Anyway, that's okay. And a couple of dimensionals on the back. And then using die cuts or punch shapes or any other embellishments that you want. So I've got these little die cuts. This is out of the Mediterranean or Citrus Blooms bundle. So I added a couple of leaves in there. And some of these little flowers, these are out of the Mediterranean Blooms as well. Do I want to put another one up there? I don't know. Maybe I'll just put it there. I will add one. So that's card number 2. And here is my sample that I made. Excuse me, I have to cough. This is what I made with the Stampin' Up! Leaders. Excuse me. And I show you the number 2 in the catalogue is that one. And they have coloured in their designer series paper with the green blend and coloured in all those trees. So I coloured around the birds. You can see the shading I've done around the birds. The birds were already coloured, so I didn't want to add any colour to the birds. I just went round with my blend pen and did shading around all the shapes. And again, I've changed the orientation. So instead of being that way, I've changed the orientation. So that's number 2. Right. Number 3 is this one here. And what they have done here is they have got it on a really nice, it looks almost embossed background, but it's a die cut background. And they have just cut one of the trees out of the designer series paper. So that this technique for using your DSP, we've done blending, for adding colour with the ink, we've done adding colour and highlights with blends. Now we're going to be doing fussy cutting and cutting out shapes. So just cut your DSP up. Lots of people don't like cutting into their DSP. I've gone ahead and done mine already with this sample. So I used for this one, let me see, I used one of these sheets that were 4 by 5 1/4, and I cut out the shape. So I used one that had the whole shape on it and got the whole shape and cut it out. Now all those little die cut leaves that I used on the card I've just made, I've glued them all on to make my background like what they had on their background. And here's the card that I made with the Stampin' Up! Online class I did. So this time I used the words peace that were a die cut and stuck them all over to make my background, and I just fussy cut the 3 little birds out of the designer series paper. This was a Nests of Winter paper that I used for that one. So that's number 3. Let me just show you the template on here again. So that's number 3, and you can see circle, the sentiment label. I've put mine at the bottom. They've done theirs with the tree, and they've just put their sentiment label just across. I went all the way across on mine. So you can use this for however you want it. It's entirely up to you, because it's your creation, and this is just to give you ideas and just to give you some inspiration, and how you put it together is entirely up to you. So you can make little tweaks and changes. Okay, so now we're going to go on to number 4. Now number 4, again, they've used 2 pieces of designer series paper here. They used one that was 5 3/4, which is what they die cut the big tree out of. That's what they've done there. They used the smaller one, which was the 4 by 3 3/4, and they've put that on the background. For mine, I wanted to use the bigger one for the background, so I used the 4 by 5 3/4 for the background, and the smaller one I die cut out, or fussy cut out. I didn't have enough to get the whole lemon out of it, so I just used the edge, that was the edge of my paper, and just cut what I could from the edge. Now on this sample here, they've used a couple of strips down here of gold foil, and then they've got their sentiment. I did my sentiment as a round one, not a square. And I've used a bit of gold foil. I've got my strips down there. I cut a tiny bit of the designer series paper off the side just to make it fit in here a little bit better, but you'll see I've still got the wider gaps at each end, just because our card sizes are different. So that's how that works there. Now, because I've used the top edge of the paper, which didn't have all the lemons in, I'm going to put this right at the top. I just think it will sit better. So we'll put this up here, and see, my gold foil didn't reach the top. That's okay, the lemons are going to cover it. So if you don't have the whole image, it doesn't matter. If you put it to an edge like that, it looks fine. And then my sentiment, I'll just pop up with some dimensionals. Right. So the technique with number 3, which is the one that had the nice background on it, that was all about fussy cutting. This technique is use 2 pieces, reverse one, so I've used the two pieces. One I fussy cut from, the other one I reversed and used as a background. So use two pieces. Combine, it's all about combining. So combining your reverse design and your front design. So that's the technique there. This is the one that I made with the class I did online. And so I just punched the shapes out of the paper rather than fussy cutting each of the birds. It used the reverse. This was the reverse of that. Used some glimmer, just like this one. I've used a bit of glimmer. So that is card number 4. Right, so card number 5 is doing these banners, and it says stamp directly onto designer series paper. So that's the technique for this one. Now what they've done on theirs is that they've used another piece of paper out of the pack to do that circle, and they've stamped on the circle. It's quite a light patterned paper that they've used where they stamped the autumn wishes. I didn't have any light paper in my pack to stamp directly on my paper, but I will stamp onto the background and you'll be able to see what it's like stamping on paper. So I'll just get my number 5 ready. Shall I do it? I guess it doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and stamp on this using Daffodil Delight and some of the flowers out of the citrus. You can hardly see it. There we go. I'll use some of the bigger flowers as well. So I'm just really filling in all the white gaps with some flowers. My ink pad's a little bit dry. So I'm just making more of a pattern on my paper. It's quite busy. This card is going to be a very busy card. Right. So I've stamped it all on there. What else are we going to do with this one? We're going to use all the leftover bits. Okay. So I'll just glue this onto the front. Now remember, we cut some of these off before when I was trimming the edges. So, oh, my battery is nearly running out. I'm going to have to hurry up. We're nearly finished. Right. Okay, so we're going to use these bits to put along the bottom and top. So using the leftover bits, so I have used one sheet that was 4 inches by 5 1/4. I've used some leftover bits that I had. So what number are we doing here? Number 5. I just used a little bit of leftover bit I had from the last card, which was the number 4 card, just to cut that little bit out. Maybe I'll glue this flat. And a glue dot to put my bit of twine on. And you can see, because I've used this from the edge of the card, again, I don't have all the leaves or all the lemons, but you can actually fix that up by, I'll put that on last actually, by I cut out another leaf. So I'm going to fix up where that join and things are by just adding another leaf there. And then you can see it's got a bit of another lemon that was just sort of on the edge, a bit of flowers there. I don't like all that messy look, so I'm just going to add some fussy cut flowers, sorry, and cover up some of that. So I'll add one there to cover up that. Add one here to cover up that. And then that little bit of lemon there, I'll add one more to cover up that. So you can always use all your bits of designer series paper. You just have to be creative in the way that you cover everything up. Now I can stick my bow on. And the Just For You, might put that on dimensionals. Always nice to have a little bit of dimension somewhere in the... Move that over there. Right. Make sure I've got this straight. Now that is a very busy card. Almost, oh, we've forgotten something. Oh, let's take this off. It's going to get even busier. But I've got to follow the template, so I'm going to take it off. And I'll just show you what we're going to do. Right, I'm going to take this off. I'll just pull it off camera. That were only 1.5 inch wide, so that's these two bits. So I've gone and made banners at the bottom. We're going to use the reverse side and stick these down. So stick this one down first. I will overlap them a little bit. And now we will have the same. I'm not quite sure if mine is straight. Just have to bring it to it faces me. Right, there we go. Now we can stick this back on. And we can go ahead and stick this label back on and take that dimensional off. Okay. This is sticky. Glue fingers after pulling all that off. I have to put it up here because it covers the where I pulled it off before. Let me just see if it's straight. Okay, so that is number 5. Let me just show you the one that I made at the online event I did using the nests of. So I've done exactly the same thing. The two 1.5 inch made a flag with those. I used my leftover bits to fill in the gap, otherwise I would have cut my card down just because our card sizes are different. But I feel like it's pretty similar to what is in the catalogue at number 5, with the 2 flag bits, the background, and just, yeah, this one's all about using up scraps, and it's quite busy. But yeah, I think it's okay. All right, so the last one, number 6. Number 6 is using one of the littler ones, the 4 inch by 3 inch piece. Now, because it's so tiny, that's the size of it. This is the size of my card. It's so tiny, so I decided that I wanted to use a piece underneath it, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that on there. Just we're using the reverse side, and we're again using the same technique that we did in number 2 with our blends, and we are going to make some patterns on our designer series paper. So I'll show you what I did. I've already coloured this one in to save time, but I'll show you what I did with this. And you'll be able to see the difference it makes by just adding a bit of colour to your paper. So that's straight. When I'm doing this underneath the camera, it's actually hard to see if things are straight. Okay, so here I'll just use this scrap. I went through and coloured all these white bits in here. It doesn't matter if you go over the paper a little bit, over the design already, as long as you're not using a blend colour that's too dark, it won't really matter. So anyway, that will give you an idea. I also used a little bit of yellow, and I coloured in those pieces. So I'll go back and show you the difference between something that's coloured and something that's not. Just adds a bit more interest. So now I can add, I've die cut a piece of this. This was also left over from, I think, card number 3. You will find that you have pieces left over from the cards because you are fussy cutting some out. And again, this one I couldn't get the whole leaf, like it was at the edge of the paper, so I've made a little cut in there, and I'm going to insert another fussy cut leaf which has all got the white rounded. I like to have white round mine. That's just me. I don't cut very straight, and having the white edge just detracts from where you've gone crooked, I feel. So I'll put this up here, and this leaf I'm going to just stick in to cover up the edge piece. And then see how this edge doesn't really have a white edge on it. I've just fussy cut another flower out of some of my scraps, and I can add another flower on top, and it just covers up any pieces that are missing there. And then I'm going to put my label up, so again I'll use dimensionals. Yep, so that is my last card. I'll show you the one in the catalogue, which is that number 6 one, and it's just a label, a fussy cut piece of the paper. They have on the reverse side of their paper, so it was normally like that, just checked, and they have added brown and made the checks more tartany with their blends, and I've just added colour on mine with my blends. This Christmas one that I did, the paper was normally just green and white striped like that. I've added extra green with my blends and made some more stripes on there. So that's all my samples, and that's my 6 cards using the different techniques. We used techniques of, I'll just bring some of these back. let me just grab one more. We've done quite a few techniques. Okay, so we've used blending brush to add colour. We've coloured in the images to create shadows and used Wink of Stella to create highlights. We've fussy cut to make a feature of one of the images on the designer series paper. We've used two pieces and combined them, so we've reversed the sides so that you've got the two different looks of your designer series paper. We've stamped directly onto our paper, and we've used leftover bits to create banners. Yeah, just using all the leftover bits and just making banners and cutting more pieces out. And we've used the reverse side and we've dressed up the pattern using blends. So there is your different techniques, all the different ways you can use paper. One sheet, 6 cards, so many different looks. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Bye.